Musician Talk with Grant Johnson, Episode 9, Music Therapy with Olivia Lawn. Hello and welcome to Musician Talk with Grant Johnson. I'm Grant Johnson. I hope you all are doing good. In this week's episode, I have a special guest with me to talk more about music therapy, one of my good friends at university. If you haven't already listened to episode 7 about music therapy, please do. This will help you understand more of what we're talking about today. Please welcome Olivia Lawn. Olivia is a singer-songwriter and a music therapy student in the same program as I am. Hello, Olivia. How are you doing?
Hi, Grant. I'm doing really good.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is my first time having someone on my podcast. I'm very excited.
Me too.
Okay, Olivia and I met at Eastern Michigan University at one of the first, I think the first meeting
Mm-hmm.
of the Music Therapy Student Association that we had online. Um, Olivia is a third year student in the music therapy program, and I'm a first. Yes, I did transfer, so I'm a head of some of the first year, most of the first years in my
Mm-hmm.
class. Um, let's see. So Olivia, why did you get into music therapy?
Yeah. So initially, I was going to study songwriting in Nashville, and that was kind of my path for a while. And I started doing classes on the music industry and music business. And I just realized it wasn't using music the way I wanted to be using music. So I did some soul searching, did some research, and happened upon music therapy.
Okay.
And I'm originally from Michigan. So then I was looking at, oh my gosh, Michigan has like two schools that are in like the top 10
Mm,
national roster for music therapy
right.
programs. So I kind of just started looking into it more that way.
Okay.
And as soon as I read about what it is, I just knew that that was something I wanted to be doing. So yeah, just using music to heal is so super cool.
Yes, it is, and it sounds like you and I had kind of the same start with music
Mm-hmm.
in college. I wanted to be a jazz performance major, going to
Mm,
Cal State Northridge to be a studio musician, like for movies and that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Then I realized I really didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, and I found music therapy, and it connected to me because I have a learning disability, and a speech impediment. So it's music has helped me to get
Mm-hmm.
through school. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, what do you want to do as a music therapist when you get your license and everything?
Okay. So first, I wanted to address one other part of the first thing that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Something that also really spoke to me about music therapy when you're talking about like how music impacted you.
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with a lot of loss in high school,
Right.
and it kind of triggered like this spiral of like mental illness and all of these things. And songwriting was really therapeutic for me.
Okay.
So as soon as I found out that music therapy can be used in that way, I was like super interested. And what's funny is when I get licensed, what I really want to do is not really related to that.
Okay.
I would love to work in the neonatal intensive care unit, in the pediatric intensive care, so
Uh-huh.
like NICU, PICU, hospital settings with
Right.
children, and especially infants, but kind of just with kiddos in general, maybe at a children's hospital. So that's
Right.
kind of what I've been looking into for internship placements. And I got partially NICU certified, which is really awesome. So I've already done some of that training.
That's awesome, and that's so cool. I just learned about the NICU system for music
Mm-hmm.
therapy last semester in the Intro to Music Therapy class, and I thought that was so cool
Yeah.
and so neat how music therapy can help say in that stage of
Yeah.
life.
Especially in a setting that is just full of such fragile
Yeah,
individuals and just, yeah, I got turned onto it from the intro class as well because I didn't even really know it was a thing.
I didn't
As soon as we
either.
learned about it, I was like, yes, okay, I'm doing this.
Okay. Um, yeah, going back to the second question, what do you so okay, you kind of answered it. So you want to go into the NICU, maybe a
Mm-hmm.
child hospital
Yeah.
as a music therapist. it's kind of like what I want to do, but mine I also might want to have my own private practice to work with
Mm-hmm.
kids with autism, learning
Yeah.
disabilities. But I kind of want to work at children's hospital as well in
Mm-hmm.
my future. So, but I have a bit of time before I have
Yeah.
to think about that. But um, what do you look? What are you looking forward to do as a music therapist when you're licensed?
Oh my gosh, there are so many things. I think one of the most powerful things that I've learned about is the process of doing kind of end of life care and legacy projects with families.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, after going to my first regional music therapy conference last year, I found out about this device that is used through Bluetooth. It's essentially like a Bluetooth stethoscope, but it's like this big. So
Okay.
it's pretty small, and it records heartbeat sounds that
Oh,
are able to then be plugged into like an audio interface to make
right.
music with. So I really am looking forward to guiding families through that healing process because I also understand that, like, in an intensive care unit setting, there is going to be quite a bit of loss.
Right.
And, the successes are really great. Having kiddos that make it from, 20 weeks
Mm-hmm.
gestational age who are super tiny and they grow and they get out of the NICU and graduate, like,
Right.
that's really exciting. But I also recognize that that's not the case with every instance. And so being able to, I don't know, being able to help families process and heal through loss, especially loss of a child, is something that it's not fun, but it's something that I'm really looking forward to doing because I think music can be so helpful and powerful in those moments.
Right. I totally agree. And I've heard about music therapists using heartbeats with
Mm-hmm.
patients, but I never heard of that special device. And
Yeah, it's so cool.
I'm kind of jealous of you that you were able to go to a conference last year. And
Mm-hmm.
does it was it in person?
It was the week before everything got shut down. It
I'm
was the last normal thing that I did in 2020.
I'm so jealous because the conference that I think you attended too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago? I
Yeah,
think. Yeah,
the
yeah,
regional conference
yeah,
this year.
yeah. I was so jealous that it was in person of you
Mhm.
because you were able to attend one in person, but the online one I thought ran pretty smoothly, and I learned a
Yeah,
lot from it.
yeah.
So,
Little
uh,
side tangent. Going to conferences in whatever profession you're involved in is so wonderful.
yes.
Um, I love the music therapy community because I feel like the professionals are so welcoming for students and very interested in like learning what students are interested in, what they have to say, because they just recognize that we're kind of the next professionals coming up,
Mhm.
which is just so awesome.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing, and I think and there's going to be more than more jobs in the next
Mm-hmm.
5-10 years just because
Absolutely.
um newer states are coming in and letting music therapy be a actual
Yeah.
license therapy. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
states don't have music therapy as actual therapy, so it that brings in problems, but we can talk about that
Right.
later. Uh,
Licensure.
yeah, but yeah, yeah. So let's get into talking about some different interventions that music therapists can use.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is receptive, and receptive is oh, lost my chain of thought. It's mu- music, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
playing pre-written music, correct?
Right. So
Yeah.
receptive can be either playing, doing live music, playing for someone, or it can be a recording of music that someone enjoys listening to or is helpful. And a lot of times, receptive is especially good for pain management,
Right.
and especially in settings where your client is less mobile.
Mm.
So maybe they're in a hospital bed and they're dealing with treatments that are kind of taking away a lot of their energy. Receptive can be really good.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So receptive. This is what music therapists do with this one is they try to find music that helps but doesn't hurt
Mm,
the patient as well, because depending on what types of music, it can actually do more damage than good. So you
yeah.
have, as music therapists, we have to um, think about what type of music we're giving the patients
Mm-hmm.
to listen to
Yeah.
or playing for them, because it could do more harm than good in the long run.
Yeah, I was just side tangent again.
Good.
I was recently doing some research for one of the next level music therapy classes where we work on like methods for working with children and adolescents,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about acute psychiatric care with adolescents and basically how sometimes these children, young adults with mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
such as, depressive disorders, those kinds of things, will actually sometimes get stuck in really negative music that ends up causing like thoughts to ruminate. And they're almost using this music as self harm. So it's really important to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
having people like creating that space with music that maybe is not as positive and allowing patients to be in that space, but then also moving them forward into a new space and not allowing them to sit in that because it can be really harmful. So I
Right.
100% agree. I think it's really important to know also what people associate with certain songs. I know
Right.
there are songs that if someone played them for me, they think it's a good song and I have horrible memories attached and I would
Right.
hate it. So
Right.
knowing that too and just asking people for their preferences and
Right.
what will be helpful and maybe what wouldn't and listening to cues.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is why we also have the first one, first or second sessions as a music therapist. You building an intervention plan for your patient, so you're getting to know the patients to know what's the best ways to help them improve, not backtrack and make it worse. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, the next one is recreation, and recreation is, oh, remind remind me, is it kind of like taking a song and changing it a little bit?
It's literally just taking a song and having people either play along, sing along, dance along,
Right.
kind of just using a song that's already existing in some format. Again, you could be playing it or just listening to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's instead of someone kind of passively experiencing or even just actively listening, having
Right.
them doing something. So whether it's moving or reflecting on the music, all of those things can kind of be informed
Okay.
by as long as you're doing something that's informed by the music. So even like you can do recreative play with younger children
Mm-hmm.
where they're kind of acting something out to a song, which is super cool.
Right.
But yeah,
So yeah, dang it, I lost my train of thought again.
it's
But
one of those days.
it is but recreation is this amazing thing because some it can also help people who have got injured and don't have the motivation to build up the muscle they needed to rebuild up in like PT, and
Mhm.
music therapy can help them with music therapists can work with a physical therapist to find something to help get them back onto a path to recovery. So that's a
Yeah.
great one. This is one of my favorite ones is improvisation, just because
Mhm.
I'm a jazz musician. I love improvising, but improvisation and music therapy can is so much different. There's so many
Mhm.
different ways of improvisation, like drum circles,
Mhm.
the stuff like that, having the kids or the patients, sorry, going back to the group of people I want to work with,
Mhm.
using instruments to um, play how they're feeling,
Right.
like using a drum playing how they feel, like aggressive or mad or
Yeah.
sad or happy. And this can
Mhm.
also work for people with addiction, expressing their feelings through
Mhm.
music. And those are kind improvisations, one of those ones that can be used in a bunch of different groups.
Absolutely.
Um,
I
Yeah.
think what's really powerful about improv is you can also do vocal improv, especially with folks who are nonverbal, or who don't. I don't really like the term nonverbal. More communicate with other sounds besides speech.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're working with someone kind of on a one on one setting, following a Nordoff Robbins music therapy approach,
Right.
which we should link some video links for
Yes.
folks to check out because it's so powerful. Basically, what they do is improvise based on what someone else is giving them. So let's say, you have a kid that comes into session and he's just kind of humming to himself and walking around the room. You
Right.
can hum back and kind of start this musical conversation
Mm-hmm.
without using spoken words. And it's so affirming and comforting for people to feel seen and acknowledged. Like that's so powerful for building rapport.
Right.
I love vocal improv, especially, or piano or whatever,
Right.
but I think vocal is really cool because you can communicate in that way.
Right. And I've I'm just starting to learn about vocal improv, and
Mm-hmm.
I find it really amazing, but I also don't know a whole lot of it
Yeah.
because as an instrumentalist, I'm not used to using my voice that much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different, but also amazing at the
Yeah.
same time. I totally forgot about this. You're a vocalist, right?
Right. Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
No.
So my primary thing is voice, and I'm also like guitar and piano. But I think that we come at it from different lenses, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a are you a soprano or alto?
I'm kind of all over the place. I
Oh,
consider myself a mezzo.
mezzo. Okay.
Um, so I'm kind of mid-range.
Right.
I really like sticking with kind of mid to low range, which is
Hmm.
also why I think you can even kind of hear it in my speaking voice. I have kind of a lighter voice, which is why I'm interested in working in something like the NICU setting because kind of naturally my voice falls into that type of rhythm.
Right. And
Yeah.
I have more of a I talk more in my fly, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
because of many years of me being timid to talk because of my speech impediment. It makes
Mm-hmm.
my voice sound a lot deeper than it really is, and I'm a tenor. But my main instruments are the clarinet, the flute, and the saxophone. So I'm coming from a different viewpoint,
Yeah.
like you said, as a vocalist. So yes, I just wanted to put that out there. Olivia is a vocalist, and
Mm-hmm.
she's an amazing one too. The last one of the four main music therapy intervention is composition and songwriting, and I think Olivia can go into a little bit more depth on this one than I
Yeah.
can.
There are so many different ways, which is super cool. We actually just started learning about songwriting methods in my methods and materials class. And, you could even do something as simple as a fill in the blank songwriting experience. So take a song that people already know and
Right.
then take some words out and let them share something, whether it's about things that they like to do or something they've been experiencing recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great for group settings as well because you could
Right.
have each group member incorporate like a couple words. And then when you play that song, they can listen for, oh my gosh, I contributed that part. And that's really powerful. Um,
It's
or
kind
you
of
can
like
do,
Mad Libs, kind
yeah,
of.
exactly. It's literally it's music Mad Libs is
Yeah.
essentially the fill in the blank songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do piggybacking, which is like
Right.
taking a song that people know and just changing all the words. So that's something you do before you come into session, and
Mm-hmm.
that would be something that people would think of as like kind of a song parody.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
but you don't
Yes.
really use that language for therapy because it's not
No.
exactly a parody. It's just using a song that people kind of already know so they can learn it faster.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um.
Um, and
I
then you
know.
can also have
Sorry.
people do, sorry,
No. You go
Zoom
ahead.
is hard.
No. It's good.
Um, and then you can also do composition stuff. So that can be with words or without words.
Right.
Um, and you can create a song for a client and come in with an original song for them.
Right.
Or you can help them in the process of creating their own song, whether it's them writing just the chords, just the words,
Mm-hmm.
both. Right now in the session that I'm currently assisting in and observing,
Uh huh.
we are working on a song for termination for our client. So for the
Oh
end of
wow.
the semester, we're
Mm-hmm.
writing her a song that she can sing with her dad, which is really
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's songwriting at work.
Right. Yeah. And I was going to say, in some other classes I taking as a gen ed last semester, I used music therapy as some of my topics, and just did more research on what I
Hmm.
wanted to do, so I can have more fun doing the assignments. And I found like kids with autism that have a hard time socializing. There was
Hmm.
one study of a music therapist writing a song for kids and have them go play it out on the playground, and they singing the song and
Hmm.
trying to help them be more social, more
Yeah.
active with other kids on the playground. It's it's such an amazing thing what music therapists can do.
Yeah, writing social stories to music is another thing that we're working on right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on one about just proper greetings,
Right.
socially appropriate greetings, especially right now during a pandemic. We
Mm-hmm.
can't go hug our friends. We can't,
No.
do things that we usually would do that would be socially appropriate. And so
Right.
trying to communicate to kids in a way that they can remember and
Mm-hmm.
easily process, which is why music is so good for that.
Right. Yeah. It's these way all four of these ways can be super effective for
Mm-hmm.
everyone, and it depends on what group of clients you're working with too, whether which approach you want to take.
Right.
And it's amazing, like improvisation, songwriting, composition, recreation can be all used in like group settings and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And it's kind of weird thinking that there's not a whole lot of group settings going on in music therapy right now.
Yeah.
And I know,
That's it's
I,
weird.
I know, like last semester when I sat in absorbing um, a music therapy session, it was on everyone was on a Google meeting all in a group, and it
Mm-hmm.
was so cool but awkward, so weird at the same time.
Yeah.
Not awkward, but it's weird trying to do making this music through Google
Yeah.
Hangout. It
It's a very different world.
it really is.
Um and like it depends on the population how they're going to respond to being online.
Right.
And it depends on your orientation. Like I mean, we won't really get into that, but
No.
whatever approach you're doing, if it's cognitive behavioral, if it's humanistic, you have
Right.
very different ways of going about it.
Yes, totally. And so in this portion of the podcast, we're gonna have some questions from my social media that
Mm.
people asked. So what the first question is, we you and me probably get asked this all the time.
Mhm.
It can, I know it can get somewhat annoying sometimes for me to keep
Yeah.
on
Advocating.
advocating for music
Yeah.
therapy, but I know I need to do this so music therapy can be more popular and more
Right.
used, like pet therapy and
Mhm.
art therapy that it's getting used now.
Yeah. And
So
even like, speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, like music therapy is definitely on that level with the health service.
yes, I totally agree. So what do we do as music therapists?
Oh man.
Yes, this is
It's such a big question,
such a
right? Like
big
there's so
question.
much.
You are yes. It's like as a music therapist, we are a therapeutic therapist to help your mental overall being, your mental being, your physical,
Mhm.
your whole
Yeah.
body, to
Mhm.
make sure
Yeah.
we're really doing the best as possible to make sure our client has the best care
Mhm.
with music.
Yeah, I feel like if you have to boil it down, I go a lot to the AMTA website when I have
Right.
questions or when I'm trying to think about how to articulate things to people. And their basic definition is essentially that it's this clinical use of music um, to help patients achieve non musical goals. And
Yes.
it's evidence based and based on a lot of research. And
Yes.
so, you can use it for a bunch of different things. I know that we learn in school about, I think, 9 domains that
Right.
can be helped. So it's communication, uh,
Social. Right.
social,
Cool.
spiritual, um, sensory,
Sensory.
motor,
Yeah.
emotional,
Cognitive.
cognitive.
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think. There's a lot.
There's a
There's
lot.
so many. There's
Yes.
so many. And it can be used, I would argue, in any setting.
Right.
And I think people with all types of abilities, every walk of life, kind of like how we're now starting to advocate more for mental health services for
Right.
individuals. Like you can go to therapy even if you feel like you're well. That kind
Mm-hmm.
of applies to music therapy as well. I
Right.
feel like there are music therapy can also really help you explore aspects of yourself that you have not
Yes.
even considered.
I totally
Um,
agree.
and you can do like, there's all sorts of specializations. Like the Bani method of guided imagery is really
Right.
great for people who are looking just for more internal healing.
Mm-hmm.
But it can also be outward physical speech impairments or an injury or an illness that you're coping with. Like there's so much.
Yes, there is. And if you do want to learn more about music therapy in more depth, the MTA website is an
Mm-hmm.
amazing website. It helps you find actual music therapists because they're all therapists say they're music therapists, but they're actually not music
Right.
therapists.
Yeah.
You need to be aware. They have to be a
Mm-hmm.
board certified music therapist to be a music therapist.
Right. And so looking for that MT-BC at the end of the name of the professional that you're working with
Right.
is super important. Kind of
Very
like when you're looking at other professionals, you have to look for their accreditations, and there's still advocacy in the works for states recognizing that licensure.
right.
Um, but paying attention is super important,
Mhm.
and it also creates a standard of care
Right. And
and
goals.
validates that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so that website can actually help you find a licensed
Yeah.
music
Mhm.
therapist around you. So, and I can also link that website and the board certification for music therapy website also
Mhm.
in the showing the music what the board is expecting from
Yeah.
music therapists, and I think that website also helps you find licensed music therapists
Mhm.
around you too.
Yeah.
They're both great resources even if you're not a
Yeah.
music therapist.
And if you're looking at, I mean, every state
It's different.
has a group of music therapist
Mm-hmm.
professionals. And so for Michigan, we have MMT, which is the
Right.
Michigan Music Therapists that you can become a part of, and they list every licensed music therapist in Michigan on their website with contact information.
Right.
So I think almost every state has one of those. I know that every region has one.
Yes.
So if you're like interested in looking or just curious, I would go ahead and look up your state in music therapy and just see
Right.
what pops up because there's some really great resources out there.
There really is. Okay, the next one is another kind of big one,
Huge one,
huge
yeah.
one. What are the health benefits of music therapy? So we covered some of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is especially right now, music therapy can really help a lot of people with
Yeah.
um mental problems right now because this is during COVID. It has
Mm-hmm.
been a really hard time for a lot of the people,
Yeah.
and I think music therapy can help so many people right now. Just
Right.
getting through some hard times, losing many loved ones, or just losing jobs, or
Right.
losing places to live because they
Yeah.
don't have a job. It's crazy. Um, it can also help with physical, like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? Social music therapy can actually help kids that have problems with
Yeah.
social interaction be better with social
Mm-hmm.
interaction. Um, am I missing any?
No, I think honestly what's so cool is when you were talking about the pandemic, I feel like we've all been kind of existing at this higher baseline of anxiety.
Right,
Every person, no matter neurodiverse or neurotypical, whether you have a diagnosed mental illness or not, we have all kind of gone through this trauma as a
right,
collective whole. And so acknowledging that and using music can be so powerful for that.
yes,
And even something simple like a way that I kind of get music therapy in people's brains sometimes, I'm like, what music do you typically listen to when you're
right,
working out? Think about how your body adjusts to the music you're listening to in terms of your heart rate.
mm-hmm.
And, if you want to go running, you're not going to put on a bunch of slow music. You want
No.
something that you can kind of match pace with. And so
Right.
music therapy works the same way with like the ISO principle of, matching a client's breathing
Right.
and then maybe guiding them to a different state. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a relaxed state or a more higher intensity state, if you're looking to energize someone who has a lower energy level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's just so cool, and I feel like that's a really digestible way to kind of introduce it to people.
Right.
Because if you think about the ways that you use music in your own life, a lot of people use music in ways that it is further used clinically.
Right. And sometimes people might not know what they're doing, listening to music
Mm-hmm.
and helping themselves heal from like a bad breakup or
Yeah,
losing a loved one. It's kind of
absolutely.
like what an actual music therapist
Right.
does to help the
Yeah.
patients. People
Yeah.
don't
The music
realize.
therapist, yeah, they come from a deeper level of understanding. So I
Yes.
think that it's important to also acknowledge that there is validity in what a music therapist is doing clinically
Mm.
versus what you're doing at home. But that
Right.
doesn't mean music can't be healing
Right.
just
Exactly.
independently of it.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes get a little overprotective of our medium, like, oh, like, no, that doesn't count. But I think using music at home is a great way to help yourself.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's a great way. It's not exactly music therapy how
Right.
we do it, but it could be your own type of therapy to help you
Right. It could
heal
be
yourself.
therapeutic use of music, just
Right.
not music therapy.
Totally.
Very different. Yeah.
Yes, totally different. This next one is complicated. It depends. um,
Yeah.
is music therapy a good career?
You're asking people that are a little bit biased.
Yeah, yeah, you guys, yeah. Um, Music therapy is a good career. Yeah, it is. But getting through all of the work and everything can be really tedious and hard
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
not just becoming a therapist, you're also becoming a music major at the same time. And music
Right.
majors are probably one of the hardest majors in school to get
Right.
through. And people
Yeah.
don't realize this.
Yeah.
It's up there with being a period med, being a
Mhm.
nurse,
Absolutely.
engineer. It's up there.
Mhm.
It puts a lot of
It's
stress
really
on
really
the
intense.
body. Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, I don't feel the competition at Eastern. I don't
Mhm.
feel like I'm getting pushed by other people because they say I'm way better than you and
Right.
that kind
Or
of stuff.
yeah.
But that's not bad. Sometimes that is better for some musicians. They
Right. It
work better
depends.
for them. For me, that doesn't work as well for me.
Yeah. We won't name names, but there are some other schools that I've auditioned with and tried to work with that had that
Yeah.
kind of attitude, and I
Yes.
just don't think it's conducive to learning, especially as a
No.
therapist, as a
Right.
music therapist. Having community support is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were talking about with the schooling, it is a lot. It is a job where you really need to be passionate about it and really want it to make it through. um and
Yes.
it's not something that's music performance. If you're interested in hearing yourself sing or play instruments, this is not your job.
Nope.
This is not your path. There's nothing wrong with being a performer, but
Right.
music therapy is very separate from that.
Because as a music therapist, you might not be singing or performing all the time like
No.
you might want to as a performance major. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be working with your clients, and sometimes as a music therapist you don't play your instrument.
Yeah.
You might be just play, you will be playing an instrument, but it might not be your main instrument. You
Mm-hmm.
it not might be singing or playing guitar. You might be
Yeah.
playing with some drums or that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm in a group for a pediatric music therapist on Facebook,
Right.
and they do like a monthly thing where they sit down with peds MT and just talk about
Mm-hmm.
things. And they talk a lot about how a lot of aspects of their job are not musical whatsoever.
Right.
Sometimes it's being with a kid before a surgery and just talking them through things,
Mm-hmm.
because you also get you get that therapeutic side as well. So you aren't a talk therapist, but you do participate in those things.
Right.
Or it might be you're chanting and making up words about, oh, we're walking down the hallway, let's go, and you
Right.
just it's so different than performing.
Mm,
And also something that I've learned a lot about voice skills and music therapy,
right.
as someone who is a vocalist and is also in private voice lessons for performance stuff, is
Mm,
kind of separating that out, because you don't ever want to put a client in a position where they're intimidated or
right.
afraid to make music
Mm,
because they feel like, oh, this person is so much better than me. Like, you
right.
never want to. And so you have to be really careful and really mindful of that, and how
Right.
it's never a performance setting. Even if you're playing a song for a client,
Right.
um, it's
Don't
all
go over
about
the
that.
top.
Right. It's all about that connection with
Right.
them and about the goals and intentions behind it.
Mm,
And that is something that I am learning more and more about every single day,
right.
because I'm very performance oriented.
Right.
Initially I was going to be a singer-songwriter performer, like, full
Right.
time. And so switching from that mindset of it doesn't have to be perfect, it has to help them reach a goal.
Right.
Um Oh my gosh. And also, I love one of our instructors, Dr. Gombert.
Yes.
She is my clinical supervisor right now.
Okay.
And she said something so wise the other day. She said, if an intervention doesn't work out the way you were intending, it was assessment. Um,
Right.
and I just love that, because you can always be growing. Even if something doesn't go the
Mm,
way you were initially planning, it's like, oh,
right.
okay, I guess we can't use this in that setting. So, just a side note, but giving yourself grace, because this
Mm,
is one of those jobs where you will be constantly learning and you will
right.
never know it all.
Right.
And with the research, it's constantly changing. And
Right.
so just being okay with adapting, which I'm not the best at, I'm working on it.
Right.
But that's super important if you're going into music therapy.
I want to add saying, a lot of people get the assumption that we don't know anything about um, the aspect like being a psychology stuff and that kind of stuff. We do, as music therapy students, we are asked to take, I believe, two psychology classes. One is a basic psychology class, and another one is a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
But we do actually have to learn about psychology and
And
all
psych
that,
statistics.
and psych statistics.
I'm in that right now. And we do research
Right.
classes, and that is some hard brain lifting. Like, that's intense stuff.
Right.
And also,
So
give credit to your music major friends,
yes.
because being a music major is so underappreciated in terms of the level of difficulty. Because it's not that it isn't rewarding, it really is. And
Mhm.
being able to say that my homework was practicing for 5 hours is cool, but also it was still me working for 5 hours, and it's hard.
Right, it really is. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize, as music majors or music therapy majors, we're doing stuff as what we would be doing as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually getting in person
Yeah.
time to work with. Whether
Right.
you're a performance major or a music education major, you're learning stuff that you can put into your career right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's something that's so powerful, is it is a major that is a career, not just a major that is a broad topic.
Right,
And there is nothing wrong with doing a broad topic major.
right.
And kind of with that, I think if you want to pursue music therapy, you need to be sure that that's what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
because it is such a focused program, which is, I think, why a lot of places offer it more as a master's degree and not as a
Right.
bachelor's. Um, and again, there's also nothing wrong with that. If you pursue something else and then you
Right.
find interest and you want to do a certification program, that's also a really great
Right.
option. So
There's
just,
there's many
yeah.
colleges that actually don't offer a bachelor's degree and offer a post bachelor's degree
Mm-hmm.
certification and the master's and the
Yeah.
graduate degrees. It's just something. It's easier to have people know that they actually want to study
Yeah.
music therapy and have them come in knowing that they are passionate about music
Mm-hmm.
therapy and not come in for the bachelor's degree and just realize this is not for me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And like I would like to say, if you don't get into music therapy in one of your top schools right away, don't give up.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
because music therapy, the schools are the bachelor's programs are really tough to get into, especially like the top 10 music therapy schools in United States, like Eastern, Western, Temple, Georgia, all of
Yeah.
these big schools for music therapy, sometimes it takes some people a couple times to get tries to get into
Yeah.
the music therapy program. So don't get discouraged. Just keep improve
Right.
and go back at it and don't give up.
And this is gonna sound like kind of like hokey or whatever, but honestly, if you are meant to do something, you will eventually be doing that thing.
Exactly.
And so, for me, it took a couple of tries. I tried to transfer in halfway through the school year. That was not smart. Doing college auditions while in college was not a good idea.
Right.
So I was like, okay, we're gonna wait and we're gonna prep more and we're gonna do it again in the spring
Right.
to try to get in for the next fall. And I also think you will find a place that fits well. I
Right.
tried out at some schools where I just would not have been happy.
I agree with that.
And
I did the same thing.
yeah, and
Even
some
though.
of them I didn't get into, and I'm so glad that I didn't because
Hmm.
you really, when you're looking, especially for a school like for a music school, you really need that connection with the
Right.
leaders of your program and with the people in it. Because with music therapy, it's such a small cohort
Right.
that you want to feel supported, you want to feel welcome. You don't want to feel like you're competing for spots at all
Right.
times because it is a small program, but because they keep it small so that you get this opportunity to really get individualized experience.
Right. And I know I won't say names like you, but I have some very unwelcoming
Yeah.
kind of welcomes to the schools. And for me, it was really difficult because a lot of the schools I was going to audition to got canceled, especially
Mm,
this one.
right. Yeah,
I
I
never
remember that.
actually I visited Eastern, but I never actually visited the music program. So I kind of went in a little bit blinded,
Yeah.
but not really because I knew this program was good and it was welcoming when I did my interview. That's another thing
Hmm.
music therapy want who want to study music therapy. There's going to be interviews.
Yeah. Also, and if you go someplace where they don't have an interview, leave.
Yeah,
Like straight up, it's not the reason that they do interviews is so important because they're really learning about if you would fit at the school.
right,
And I auditioned at a school where they didn't give me the time of day. They did not care about an interview. All they cared about was music skills, and I think that they were doing a disservice to their program.
right,
Like
right,
music therapy is so much more than just being a good musician because if you
right.
were just being a good musician, you would be in a cutthroat performance thing, which
Yeah.
is great. Some people are definitely designed for that. So,
I would say the same thing about music education.
mhm.
Leave if there's no interview.
Right.
Just
Because
do it.
music ed is also based in kind of that personhood. It's a
Right.
very holistic
Hmm.
career path
Right. And
and program.
I'm not going California schools. That they're a little bit different because all of them are known for being a great music education schools. Don't listen to me if you're going to school in California because they have a totally different program because you have to do some types of in the middle of your degree you have to do different things to make
Mm,
sure you can graduate as a music education major.
yeah.
So it's a little bit different than other places. But like in Michigan, if you listen in Michigan, leave if you don't have an
Take
interview.
it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone has a different thing that they're valuing, but for me, that community was so important. And
Yes.
when I was auditioning at schools where they didn't care about who I was as a person, I was like, oh, okay, we're not going to go here.
I think that was one of my biggest things. I was accepted to some big schools, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized I didn't want to be just another number.
Right, exactly.
I wanted
And
to be
some
part of the
people some
community.
people thrive in that kind of
Yes.
setting, but I think for music therapy it's important to find a group.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question. And this one is interesting, very interesting. Is music therapy covered by insurance?
I learned about this.
And it's kind of hard.
It's complicated.
It's yes and no depending on where you live. And
Right.
places where music therapists don't get covered with as being a music therapist, a lot of times they'll license in other specialties like speech pathology
Mm-hmm.
or marriage therapy and different types of therapy, so they can still be a music therapist, but they're also a different licensed therapy, so they can
Yeah.
not cheat the
Right.
system, but um,
Yeah.
they're still licensed in that particular area, and they can use
Mhm.
music therapy because they're trained in it.
Right.
But yes, music therapy is covered depending on where you live.
It depends. It depends on and like Medicare versus Medicaid and what state you're in, and also sometimes private insurance reimbursement is a little bit more accessible
Right.
because that's more on a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm.
And it also depends on if you want reimbursement because sometimes then all of your clients are paying the same thing no matter what, and
Right.
you may want it to be more of a sliding scale. So it really, and it depends on the institution if you're working for a
Yes.
company or if you're doing a private practice or if you're
Right.
working at a hospital. Like those are
Right.
all different
Mm-hmm.
situations where they
Yeah.
may have certain rules for what you can qualify for insurance reimbursement and what you can't,
Right.
in good and bad ways.
Yes. It's very complicated. That's why
Yes.
this one.
That's on the AMTA website. They have
Yes.
a really great frequently asked questions area. Um, so if
Yes.
that's something that you're interested in more specifics about, I would check them out because
Yes.
they have probably the most up to date information
Information
on that.
and
Yeah.
going off of that, they update their website constantly because they
Yeah.
want to give you the most informed information, the current information about music
Exactly.
therapy. And yeah, it's very complicated, but I'm hoping music therapy getting covered by insurance is going to get improved in the future
Yeah.
when we get older. When we get into licensing, you're going to be getting into licensing earlier than I am, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it's getting better by then and that kind of stuff. We can
And there are
hope.
certain states where it's like a bigger thing now. I know in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
they've had a lot more coverage in the last couple of years. So there are a lot of jobs opening up.
Right, that's
Um,
amazing. That's great.
so yeah.
Um, the next question, I think kind of cover this, but we can go a little bit more in depth. How does music therapy help depression?
Oh my gosh, so many different ways.
Yeah, um, it. Yeah, we talked about this throughout the
Mm-hmm.
episode, but it it can help you find what's missing or help you um, recover from what something bad happened or something. It can really help you
Yeah.
get through it. And music therapists are trained to help you get through hard times.
I think there are a couple different ways that automatically come to mind. One
Okay.
would be a lyric analysis activity.
Mhm.
That can be really powerful and validating, allowing clients to first come in and bring something that represents where they're at currently,
Mhm.
emotionally, and just kind of sharing that and discussing with them where that is coming from, if there's
Right.
a source in their life, and helping them kind of adjust behaviors. I know for me personally, it's very helpful.
Right.
Um, and then also, oh my gosh, like I just like totally had one of those moments where I just like disappeared. Um, but oh, and also having group settings because
Right.
a lot of times what happens if you're in like an acute psychiatric setting,
Mhm.
um, people who come in with for depression usually kind of have some other underlying diagnoses as well, a
Right.
lot of comorbidities, typically suicidal
Mhm.
ideation or attempts even if you're hospitalized, for
Right.
example. um, and one of the big things with that is social withdrawal. And so
Wow.
creating music therapy sessions in a group to offer that opportunity for
Mm.
community building.
Right.
Oh, and I know what I was going to say before. So the other thing that's really tricky with individuals who have depression, it's hard for them to think about the future, to want to think about a future,
Right.
to have
Okay.
any kind of hope for a future. And
Right.
so as music therapists, what we can do is offer ideas, even if the client doesn't take them immediately, giving them some resources for, in a couple weeks, if you're feeling more up to it, this is a playlist that might be
Mhm.
motivating to you. Maybe we could make a plan of we're going to learn this instrument and set goals for learning this instrument and
Right.
having something to look forward to every day, having something to hold you accountable for taking care of yourself, um, and using music as kind of self care.
Right.
and setting that up for clients. So I think that that's something that's really cool and
Mm-hmm.
important, and unique to music therapy is like, I'm going to bring in a ukulele and we're going to learn a song by the end of your stay in these 10 days or whatever.
Right.
Um, so yeah, music therapy is really great for depression. And it's also, there's some research showing that it can be as beneficial as some medications. And then combined with medication, it's
Mm-hmm.
very powerful.
Right.
So
Right.
I'll get off my soapbox now. I
Right.
mental health stuff with music therapy is so good.
And there's so many different ways. And right,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some research for some of my other classes for projects, and yeah, medicine can combine with music therapy can be very, very good for your patient and
Yeah.
beneficial, like you said. Um, okay, this one we we haven't really discussed what it looks like, but what does a music therapy session looks like?
Another huge question because it's so population dependent.
Right. And
I
depending on
mean,
if it's one on one, if it's a
mm-hmm.
group session,
Yeah.
if it's in a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
it just depends. It's like
Right.
you can have it kind of you can have a certain idea of what goes on in a music therapy session. Like for a kid session, a lot of times in group or individual, music therapists have fun doing like hello songs and
Right.
goodbye songs to start the session and leave the session just because it's something to get into. And I'm not
Right.
saying music therapy just therapists just use hello and goodbye songs for kids, but I mean they use them for all different
Mm-hmm.
ages. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that's one of the popular things that start
Mm-hmm.
and end a music therapy session with kids.
Yeah. Those are kind of the bookends for like a standard session
Right.
usually.
And then
I feel like you could go into like each, like you could have a whole episode about like music therapy in school setting, music therapy in the hospital, like,
yeah.
but I feel like the basic thing that a music therapist is looking for when they're coming up with like a session plan is finding ways to integrate the goals naturally
Right.
and letting the energy flow of the session be dictated by the client. And so for some clients, it would be beneficial to start higher energy and work them down. For
Right.
some clients, it would be beneficial to kind of keep it where they don't really know what's coming next and kind of
Mm-hmm.
keep their energy level going all over the place because it keeps them actively engaged. So, like with kids, a really good thing to do is have a lot of movement activities,
Right.
and a lot of hands on, tactile things, other things that keep them engaged with visuals. And there may be some clients where you spend the whole session songwriting
Right.
or playing them music at bedside, like in the hospice setting,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Or
or
playing
working
with
on,
each other, playing
right, or
music
playing
together.
together,
Yeah.
or creating a music video or a
Oh,
music
that. Yeah.
recording. Um, there's just so much that you can do, but I feel like the basic structure is a hello song, the activity or multiple activities that are working on the goals, and then a wrap up. And what I observed last semester, I was observing sessions in a school setting with preschoolers who had autism.
Okay.
Um, and they were very high energy. So she did a lot of movement activities to kind of get them physically engaged. And then at the end of the session, so I was observing a therapist who was in person in school before they
Okay.
got sent home.
Right.
But I was on Zoom, so I was watching through a
Mm-hmm.
computer. But she would go and turn off the lights in the room and play kind of just this calming drone music,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll go around and like do some sort of sensory. So for some kids, she would give them like a little back rub. For some kids, she would rub like a kabasa or another instrument like that with beads on their arms and legs, and just kind of working on that body awareness and a wind down. Or with adults, it could be like a music assisted relaxation thing before you do your goodbye song, or even after, just to kind of bring people back into their bodies, into the space, and kind of prepare them for what they have next.
Right.
So,
I want to add saying another thing that music therapists can do in sessions is like kids with autism or learning disabilities or disabilities can also music therapists can teach them how to play like the piano or ukulele or a guitar to help them improve their overall being and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, it's totally different than actually teaching the instrument because you have to help them a little bit more and
Right.
understand what's going on with when they're playing.
Yeah,
And
there are some music therapists who do like adaptive lessons, which I
yeah,
think is what you're talking about.
yes,
Yeah.
adapted. Thank you. I
Yeah,
was missing them.
where they do like a private practice and they teach lessons sometimes to, neurotypical kids and other kids with differing abilities where they do adaptive lessons as a music therapy practice.
Yes,
That's
and
super cool.
it's really cool because I know like that thing that helped me not exactly like that, but actually learning an instrument
Mhm.
actually helped me do better in school in middle school
Yeah.
and high school. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize what was going on. I just realized it was just coming to me easier.
Mhm.
So,
And it's so empowering and it learning an instrument takes so much cognitive ability
mm-hmm.
and it helps kids work on that in a way that doesn't feel like work
Right.
or doesn't feel like the same work as sitting and working on your vocabulary words or doing your math facts. But
Mm-hmm.
in the same way, you are exercising your brain, you're
Mm-hmm.
creating those new connections with neurons that is so powerful for learning. So, like, especially those cognitive goals can be achieved through so many different ways in music.
Yes, it can. And like for me, actually learning how to sing at my community college actually helped me with improving how my sound of speaking
Yeah.
came. And I saw improvement. My mom and my parents saw improvement, and it's like, wow, music therapy could have helped me when I was younger with my speech impediment,
Mm-hmm.
and because music therapists can work with speech pathologists
Absolutely.
to help their patient or client improve with their speech.
Yeah.
So this next one is a question I've got asked a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
but I know this. She's a good friend of mine that I met. Um, can music therapy help people who have chronic traumatic anthropology and and
Encephalopathy?
yeah empathy. So if you don't know what chronic traumatic enthropathy is, it happens a lot in like sports, contact sports, especially like football, when you have head injuries over and over and over again, and it's something it it's not a great thing. Um, I honestly don't know if like if it a good answer for this, but I say yes. There is probably a way music therapy
Yeah.
can help people with that.
Because it's a degenerative disease, right?
Yeah,
So it's kind of like it's from head trauma. So it's like a traumatic brain injury, but it's kind of an extreme version of that.
right,
Um, and so there is, I mean, a ton in the music therapy literature about working with individuals who have traumatic brain injuries or TBIs.
right,
And I think it can also sometimes progress to dementia. And that is another area in music therapy that has been heavily researched.
right,
Something that's really cool about working with individuals who have TBIs in a music therapy setting is you can help them regain a lot of skills because of the neuroplasticity in our brains, which is
right,
super awesome. Your brain finds new ways to do the same things because it wants you to heal and it is self-healing.
right,
So music therapy can help people who have motor impairment because of a brain injury.
right.
You can help reconnect, find new ways to get that same movement through movement activities with a scarf or with an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can also use, if you have a speech, something like aphasia, a speech
Mm,
problem associated with a brain injury,
right.
music therapy can actually be very beneficial for that development as
Mm,
well and for word recall,
nice.
especially in dementia patients. So I think that that would definitely transfer over for other TBIs.
Yeah,
Um,
I
Doing
know.
something like, singing a song and letting the client fill in the last word
Mm-hmm.
because the way that our brains process music is different than speech, but
Right,
it's similar enough where then you can retrain that area and transfer those skills over because music involves both hemispheres of the brain, which is
Right.
something that is very unique to music,
Right.
which is why it's so powerful. So I would say 100%
Right.
TBIs are so benefited from music therapy,
Right.
and you can see some massive gains.
Right. And I know coming from this situation, she was talking about the person was having anger breakouts for no
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere. So
Yeah,
yes, I think music therapy can help with those anger breakouts because you can find the music therapist can find ways to help them figure a way to
manage those.
manage those to calm
Yeah,
down in that moment and that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So
I feel like with the mood disorders caused
yes,
by traumatic brain injury, you could even work on social story songs
right,
with other people, and kind of give them something. Okay, when this is starting to happen and I can feel this physically happening in my body, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a breathing exercise and kind of make that into a song that they can kind of hear in their head,
right,
as a way to channel that in a more appropriate way.
right. Yes, that's totally what I was thinking. But
Yeah,
at the same time, I haven't had a whole lot of learning about music therapy. I know the
right.
gist of it right now, but you're ahead of me and you know a bit more than I do.
Right. And
So,
as you get trained, like you learn so much, and
right,
it's such a diverse field. It's so cool.
yeah.
There's just so much information. I am learning every single day.
Yes, I am too, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. I love learning new things about music therapy or
Yeah.
just stuff I love in general. So,
Yes.
uh,
Also, the brain is so cool. Just a side note, it's awesome.
oh, it totally is. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So the last question I took from social media is, what has it been like to be a music therapy student during a pandemic? I will let you go first on that
Oh
one.
man. So, and I think we'll have some unique perspectives on this because I started this program in person and you
Right,
haven't started this program in person. So I feel
right,
like we have kind of different experiences with it.
yes,
For me personally, it is hard to stay motivated in a program that is so people oriented when you cannot be around people,
and hands on too.
and hands on, and not being able to have clinical placements in person with clients is so hard.
Right.
Just because I feel like that's what fuels you and everything else is difficult. Like, I would
Mm-hmm.
always be like, well, at least I have my improv class with people that will support me and guide me.
Right.
And you have that community, but it's very different online. And so I think the biggest thing that's been challenging is sessions over Zoom, because right now I'm leading, my clinical placement is online, obviously,
Right.
and dealing with delays and also just technology problems.
Yes.
I broke my computer, and then like I'm like, how do I
Yes.
do session now?
Right.
Or if the sound isn't working, or if the Wi-Fi connection for your patient is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I have some friends, I guess more colleagues, people that I know in the profession right now who are
Right.
working in, different hospital settings, and they've been working in person for a majority of the pandemic, but
Right.
they have such increased levels of PPE, like playing guitar with gloves on can't happen. It's
No.
so hard.
Right.
And so, for these individuals that I think we often forget, like, oh, the doctors and nurses are frontline workers, but also the occupational therapist at the hospital, the physical therapist, the music therapist, all of these other people who are helping patients just as much in different ways
Our frontline workers too.
are frontline workers as well and have been working through this whole pandemic and
Yes.
dealing with a lot of the trauma of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think also, just seeing that and then wondering what it's going to be like for me next
Right.
year when I have my main clinical placements and I'm thinking about, will I be able to work in a medical setting?
Right.
And right now they're not allowing students,
Nope.
because they can't have extra bodies. And so, that's just been something that's kind of hard to think about. And I feel
Right.
like, but it's not all negative. There are definitely some positives. I think we have all learned, um,
We don't have to do
how
it
to
all
lead
in
telehealth
person.
music therapy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And also appreciating the value of in person, but then allowing music therapy to extend past those who can drive to a session.
Right. Yeah.
So, for people who have limited access to transportation or other resources, as long as they
Right.
have a phone or a
A
laptop
tablet.
or an iPad,
Yeah.
whatever, if they have a tablet, like as long as you have some way to get the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and some device that can do a video capture,
Right.
you can do music therapy which is so cool.
Why? Like
Um,
we will I think I don't know if you attended that panel, but they was talking about those um they were in Washington and people coming from Canada for
yeah,
sessions and only coming from one session and never coming back because they live in Canada.
right,
Can
and they
tell
can
and can,
because telehealth.
yeah. Now it's like can we do this? Can we use telehealth for patients our state or our country?
Yeah,
That's a great question.
and international reach, like
Yeah,
that's so amazing.
that's a great question. But it's not up to them though. It's up to like the board and the state, what state you're in, and that kind of
Yeah, I
stuff.
feel like this is going to expand the field so much.
I think telehealth, as much as it sucks, I think it's also a good thing at times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being able to reach those people, or maybe
Yes.
you have a client that you worked with for a long time, had a great rapport with, and had to terminate because they were moving.
Right.
But now you could do a telehealth session with them and still be helping them in that way, even if
Right.
you're not in the same room.
Right. I exactly agree. And I didn't mean to cut you off on that, what you talking about your
No, you're
experience.
totally good.
But do you want to add anything about your experience as a music therapy student during the pandemic?
Um, I just want to offer words of encouragement because I feel like if as a student, as a professional, as a human, if you have made it through this pandemic so far, you have probably made it through one of the hardest seasons of your life and you're
Yes.
still here. And so I am constantly reminding myself that it's okay that things are different and it's
Yes.
okay that I'm not doing the same progress. I'm not making the same progress that I was in
Mm-hmm.
person because things are really hard. And like you were talking about earlier, just kind of being at this base level of we're in a pandemic still and it's been
Right.
a whole year and we're still
Yes.
here. um
Yes. We're
it's
still.
really hard, and just
Yeah.
giving yourself grace and allowing it to be difficult and
Yes.
understanding that it's not a permanent thing,
Right.
I think is so important,
It's
especially when you're doing something like music, which cannot be done over Zoom. I cannot
no.
do another voice lesson over Zoom. Like it doesn't work. And we're doing it and we're pretending it's working, but it's not. And it's okay that it's not,
Yes.
honestly. And I
Yes.
think just accepting that and moving forward is so important.
But okay, but we have to realize we're doing the best we can
Yeah,
during the pandemic. We're not
absolutely.
saying voice lessons or mice lessons we can't do it online. It's just for our mental reasons that we can't do another lesson online. It's because it's the delay and you can't be working with your professor at the same time.
Right.
It's frustrating.
It's very frustrating, but we're doing the best we can. And
We're doing
I
the
love that you said that. That's so important.
yeah, like we're not dissing on anyone. We're just saying
No,
it's
yeah.
just hard for us and difficult for us.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
it's been hard for people for different reasons.
yeah,
But yeah, I would love to hear your take on this too, because I didn't even think about the people who are starting this without ever having. I mean, some people are still at home and have not ever been to Eastern's
yeah,
music building before, have
right,
never seen it.
right. So for
That's
me,
crazy.
th- this whole year, this whole school year has been very, very stressful for me. I
Yeah,
don't know about you. Has it been stressful for you as well?
a big time.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um, for me, it was very stressful at the beginning of the semester. I was getting ready. I was halfway from California to Michigan. Got an email saying EMU was moving back though, moving date by 3 weeks. Then I started to freak out and everything. And luckily, everything worked out for the good. I moved in on the day I was supposed to, and that was fine. Then just getting all the stuff ready, um, getting ready for each all my classes. I know that I had a little bit easier time getting into the groove of this pandemic, learning online, and being a college student. Just because I was a college student beforehand, I know not to get overworked with classes that are not doing well. It's a long semester.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I know a bunch of my classmates got really overwhelmed during the first semester. I felt really bad for them because it's not easy transitioning from high school to college. It's so
Yeah.
hard,
And the
especially as
burnout is
yeah,
so real.
and especially as a music major. it's so difficult. It's,
Yeah.
it's, it's
Yeah.
difficult to
It's a
juggle
lot.
everything because you're taking, like, as a music major or as a music therapy major, you're taking probably double or triple the major classes that other majors are taking. And you have to
Yeah.
also add in your gen ed classes to that.
Mhm.
So that would this has been very difficult, but I'm glad I'm here. It's been
Yeah.
really difficult finding meeting new people.
Right.
From I'm coming from a state that I'm living in a state that I don't know anyone, and I'm glad that I had the music therapy my music therapy student um um community, because I met some great friends and great people in the music therapy program
Yeah.
during the meetings we have for the music therapy association. Just having um just the music therapy students finding me on Facebook and adding
Yeah.
me and making sure everything's going on. That was mind boggling, that how much the community for music therapy is. This
Mhm.
the other students reaching out to you. I
Yeah.
It made me feel so much better. But yeah, it's been tough. It,
Absolutely.
it's really been tough being a music therapy student online, or music student online in
Yeah.
general. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's not hard for any other major, but it's been really difficult for us. Um,
Because when you're in something that just doesn't automatically translate to online, there's a
right,
reason none of these classes were offered online before. Because some of the
right.
gen eds were, but nothing related to music has ever been offered online.
There's been some, there
Music
is
theory could be, but that's
music
about it.
theory, history,
Yeah, music history,
um,
um,
you,
but not music therapy classes and
no,
not applied instrument things,
not piano,
ensembles.
ensembles. Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on ensembles.
Yeah, I feel like if you're in a hands-on profession, like for example, my best friend is a nursing major,
Right.
and not being able to attend labs in person
Right.
and just pretending that you're working on a model of a human body that you don't have in your living space, like that's really,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all of these majors that are preparing you directly for a profession to be certified for it, so like
Right.
music therapy, pre-med, nursing, social work, speech pathology, like the music education, education in general, like all of these different things that are specific for a hands-on environment
Mm-hmm.
that you're supposed to get hands-on training and now you can't because it's online. I
Right.
feel like that just adds a little extra layer to things that will be complicated
Right. Or
when you
uh, uh,
become a professional.
or adding expenses that you don't realize you're going to
Yeah.
need because you're online. I
So
know
now you need a new mic
I
and a
need
new piano.
a keyboard. Yeah, a piano. It's like, oh shoot. I like for me, I didn't budget in a piano at the beginning of the year,
No.
and it's like, oh shoot, my piano class is going to be online, and they said I need a piano. They're not lending out pianos. Oh shoot, the practice
Yeah.
rooms are not going to be open. Oh
Yeah.
shoot, I need to
Yeah.
find money to get myself a
Get
new
a
keyboard.
piano.
Yeah, a piano, a keyboard.
Yeah.
And I know for me, when I'm not injured, I think I'm a pretty good piano player, and I wanted to have a piano that would last me a while, not buying
Right.
one to
Just a cheap keyboard.
just put a patch on
Yeah.
in your grill. So I spent a little bit more money than I probably should have, but
Yeah. No,
let's
I
not
feel that.
let's not go there. But yeah, there's the aspect of trying to learn through Zoom too. Difficulties because some
Yeah.
like our music therapy professors are trying their best they can, but some things is like, oh shoot, something didn't go right. Um, we need to switch things around and
Yeah.
get back to this next class because I don't know what's going on. Technical difficulties,
Mhm.
and that's so difficult, especially if for us in our and for me it was my improvisation class. It meets only once a week,
Yeah.
so if something goes wrong,
You don't know what to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard, and I know all the professors are doing the best they can,
Mhm.
and
Everyone's learning in this for
yeah,
sure.
even though it's been a year, it's like, oh, all these teachers and professors should know what they need to do. It's like, no.
Like we still don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, like if I had to lead a class online, there
Yeah.
would be hiccups. There would be, and there are just so many unforeseen challenges.
I give them utmost respect for teachers right now,
Oh my
professors right
gosh.
now,
Yeah.
because they had to change the whole curriculum into online.
Yeah. For things that should not be online.
Yes, especially music classes
Especially music. Like, tell me how that's supposed to work. Like, it's not, but
or
here we are
labs,
trying.
for, like you said, nurses and pre med and chemists and
Yeah.
biology majors. It's like, how are you supposed to do this online?
My friend got sent a lab kit in the mail with like animal parts for
Okay.
biology. And I'm like, no, this is
No,
not okay.
no. Okay, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan.
Okay, that kind of creeped me out. Okay. So I have the next topic I was gonna have us talk about is talking about who can benefit from music therapy, but I think we did a pretty good
Yeah.
job talking about who
Yeah.
music therapy can actually benefit. There's so many others. Go to my last episode, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I go into a little bit more depth on who can actually benefit from music therapy,
Yeah.
but
Short
considering
answer is everyone.
everyone, yeah, but
I
there's
mean,
some,
really, almost anyone.
yeah, there's some sections of the area where it benefits people a little bit more than
Hmm.
others, but it benefits everyone.
Yeah.
I know, like for both of us, we kind of want to get into the pediatric
Hmm.
setting, so more at a hospital. I know,
Yeah.
like for me, I want to work with kids with autism and
Hmm.
Down syndrome and learning
Yeah.
disabilities with music therapy, and
Absolutely.
it's an amazing thing. So I I want to say something. You guys might be wondering why we haven't done a hello song or a goodbye song to open up the podcast or end the podcast. The reason is a lot of the hello and goodbye songs are based off of songs that are copyrighted or not in a public domain right now.
Hmm.
So my podcast would get taken down off of Spotify and Apple Music. So
Which we don't
that's
want to do.
yeah, I really don't want
We're
to
not
do
here
that.
for that.
No, we're not. But Olivia is gonna lead us in a short music assisted relaxation experience on her guitar, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
So I'm gonna let Olivia take over.
All right. So this is something that I've recently been learning, which is super cool. And I'll just kind of guide us through something nice and brief so we can kind of wind down as the session's ending. Um, so, first, I would invite you to get into a comfortable position, loosening anything that is restricting your breathing, and just begin to feel the support of wherever you're sitting right now or lying down. And just feel that support extending through your head and your shoulders, through your spine and your back, through your arms and out your hands, through the hips, legs, and feet. And just allow yourself to sink into that chair or the ground, wherever you're at right now. Beginning to let go of any tension you're holding in the body. And if you haven't yet, I would invite you to allow your eyes to close gently and just get a little bit more aware of your breathing right now. Gradually allowing yourself to take deeper breaths, gently taking in the breath and gently releasing the breath. Allowing the breath to fall into its own natural pattern of inhale would invite you for the next few seconds to just sit in this space and imagine a ball of light starting to fill your body in any spaces where you might need some more energy, and some more releases of tension. So I would invite you to think of those spaces now and allow that to fill you, and letting it move with each breath. Inhale and exhale. And now I want to bring us back into our space. So start to feel what it feels like around you. Notice the sounds in your environment. And just feel your body in this space. And when you're ready, go ahead and gently allow your eyes to open. Take a few more deep breaths. Maybe wiggle out your arms and legs. Kind of get the energy back and flowing. And just remember that you can come back to this space whenever you need to kind of get some energy back in your body. So we'll take one more deep breath. Inhale and exhale. So thank you for doing that with me. And that's something that would usually go on quite a bit longer. You can do progressive muscle relaxation, color, light induction, all of these things. But I definitely feel more relaxed now. How about you, Grant?
I do too. Thank you so much for leading that.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes me feel nice and loose and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Some stress was taken off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Um, oh man, that's ooh.
Very grounded. Very just.
Yeah, yes, very grounded. Yes, I totally agree. Um, I'm really excited to learn to play that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably next year I'm probably gonna start learning
Yeah.
more about actually playing instead of what I'm learning now. Well, it's mostly talking
Mm-hmm.
about what music therapy is, and I've
Yeah.
been enjoyed. Don't get me wrong, I love enjoying learning about that, but that was amazing. Uh, so this is the I would like to give a big thank you to Olivia for coming on my podcast. This was amazing. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Yeah. You should go check out Olivia on Instagram and Facebook at olivialauren.music. I will have it in the description, along with her YouTube channel at Olivia Lauren Music. She also goes live with live music on sessions on the app or on a web browser on session on Thursdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m., right?
Yes, 8 p.m. Eastern, and Grant's
Yeah.
usually there. It's a
Yes.
good time. We have
Oh,
a whole party. It's a lot
yeah.
of fun.
It's really a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you for everyone for listening to this week's episode of Musician Talk with Grant Johnson. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I did. I hope you enjoyed talking, Olivia, with me
Oh,
about.
yes, this is awesome.
It really was. You can hear a new episode of Musician Talk with Grant Johnson on Fridays at 11 Eastern Time when I do post. You can hear them on Apple Music now and Spotify. I I'm hoping to have new guests on my podcast in the near future. I would love to have Olivia back on my podcast for
Yes.
another episode of music therapy or talking about being a singer songwriter too. That would be a fun topic
Yeah,
to
for
talk
sure.
about. Um, this episode of my podcast is going to be on my YouTube channel too. Yay! So my YouTube channel is Grant Johnson Music, and I will have that linked in my description as well. I'm also gonna have the websites we were talking about, and I'm going to talk to Olivia about some of the YouTube videos we can link to this as well that she was talking about in earlier in the podcast. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode again. Um, I hope I will see you guys in another episode of my musician talk with Grant Johnson. If you guys have more questions about music therapy and want to get more in depth, you can reach out to either Olivia or I, and we're more than welcome to talk to you guys about
Yeah.
it. And my socials are um, on Facebook and Instagram is grant.johnson.music. And that's my socials, and you guys can get a hold of me or Olivia talking about music therapy, and we're more than welcome to. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you hopefully next week, and I hope you guys stay safe during this crazy time.
Mm.
And yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.